We are recording. Amy, did you want to start the introductions?
Sure. I'm Amy Gillentine. I'm the publisher and executive editor of the Indy.
Good. Nice to see you. Yes.
We'll go down. Helen?
Hi, Richard. I'm Helen Robinson. I'm the managing editor of the Colorado Springs Business Journal.
Alyssa?
Hi, Richard. Alyssa Smith here. I am the associate editor of the Indy.
Okay, good. Mary Jo?
I'm the copy editor for Words, all the words.
Okay. Well, great.
And
as a disclaimer, I should say that I gave my office for 6 months to John Weiss to cook up the Independent. And I was, I think, the first editorial page editor, and I think the first office was up above Poor Richard. So yeah. Doesn't mean you have to endorse me because of it. But I wanted to tell you that as a disclaimer.
And Teddy is working on your campaign, is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. Teddy Weiss is working on my campaign. So yeah.
We'll use that as
lots of history. Yeah, that's right.
Well, thanks, Richard, for being with us. So I'll be asking the questions and we'll just go ahead and get started. For those who don't know who you are, maybe you could introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, so I am Richard Skorman. I was from Akron, Ohio, one of the various places in the country, and Cuyahoga River catching on fire. And I came to Colorado College in 1970 and I've been here ever since. I started my first bookstore in 1975, actually my senior year in college, and been on Tejon Street with the Poor Richards, Little Richards businesses for 45 years. My wife, Patricia, is my full partner. And I was elected to council first in 1999 after a year on the park board, and then got reelected in 2003. I left a year early to become Senator Salazar's regional director, and then got reelected in 2017. I ran for mayor, first strong mayor in 2011, and made it to the runoff, but lost to Steve Bach. So I'm going into my 11th year on city council. But was vice mayor 2 years, was also president the last 4 years. I think that gives you a good rundown. I mean, there's other things, but yeah, nothing major that your listeners or viewers should know.
So this time around, what made you decide to run for a second term?
Well, I was hesitant, actually, to be honest with you. I was going back and forth because we had to close our restaurant and cafe and wine bar due to COVID, and I'm the one who runs that side of our business. So I wasn't sure that I could do both, reopen them and run for council, but it turned out the vaccine was a slower rollout than we thought. So at least I know I can run. And but there were several issues that I really wanted to be there for that are coming up in the future, and ones that I wanted to finish that I had started in my last 4 years. And I can go through that list if you want, but I don't want to preempt you because you may have a question about whether I have issues that I care about going into this.
That's my next question.
Oh, okay.
Nice segue. Go ahead. Thank you for being.
I am a good mind reader. Yeah. Well, I think we've done a really good job with utilities since Aram has become our new CEO, and this council, this utility board, in terms of retiring Drake early. I had been working on that for 20 years and had been promised at one point it would be retired in 2016. So very disappointed that the previous council made the 2035 decision, and now we're going to retire it in 2023. We've done a good job in terms of really preparing for a clean energy future at utilities. And I'm very proud of that in terms of the amount of energy that we're spending on. It's really mostly renewable these days. And we're really trying to figure out how to both electrify the grid with renewable energy and new building construction as well, to be able to have people have solar panels on their homes and to have battery storage. And then also we've been very good and aggressive about gaining good quality water rights, senior water rights, and I feel really good about that. But I still think there's a long way to go. And especially with the state mandates that we have to now a 8% carbon reduction from 2005 by 2030. I think certainly it's a good decision that we're going to be getting rid of coal at Nixon. But I also think that there's more that we can do, and especially around the demand side management, the conservation side. That's where you really save ratepayers, and you also have the ability to make sure that people are saving money. But if you think about Colorado Springs, the big worry for me, I'm going into the utilities, but it's more about climate change. So we are in a drought now, La Nina, but we are getting hotter. Almost every year is a record hot year. And we haven't done enough to really look at two sides of the tree issue, I call it. And that's another passion of mine. It's we have a lot of risk in terms of our wildland-urban interface. Significant. We were lucky. We dodged a bullet with the Bear Creek fire. We really have issues that we haven't addressed, and not just mitigation, but rapid response, rapid identification, rapid response, and evacuation planning. And so I've been really pounding the table for several years. And finally, this summer, people at City Council and the mayor and a lot of the business community understands that this is a huge risk. And so I'd like to propose that we set up a special fire district in the WUI, in the wildland urban interface, to really be able to address that risk that we have, but to be able to cross jurisdictions. And one of the things I was able to do was testify at the state legislature, and now they're going to be passing a bill that will allow us to do that. So we can partner with Teller County, with Fremont County, with the Forest Service in ways that we haven't been able to before, and really get our arms around it. I don't worry as much about our city limits, but I worry about everything outside of it. On a given night, Old Stage Road may have 30 bonfires, and nobody's paying attention up there. So there's that side. And then the other side to the tree problem is our lack of urban canopy. We're 19% urban canopy. Many cities in Colorado are 25 and 30. We have a very significant heat gain envelope, 2.5 degrees hotter than the rest of the state. State's often in the top 10 hottest heat gains in the country. We have parts of our community, like the Southeast, that are 6 to 8 degrees hotter than the rest of the city. Then we have the emerald ash borer marching down from Douglas County that's going to wipe out a good number of the monoculture that we happen to plant during the 70s and 80s in places like Rustic Hills. And we just have to really get ahead of that. And it's not because, I want to absorb CO2. That's a big factor, obviously, but we also need to keep ourselves cooler. And right now we're building energy generation for 70% saturation of air conditioners. When I moved here in 1970, you were lucky to see an air conditioner anywhere. And we have just gotten so much hotter, and that's our peak demand. So that's what we're going to have to really power in the future. Can we make our city cooler? Absolutely. Could we help with stormwater runoff because of it? Yes. Could we get more prescriptive in how we build new houses? Smaller attics? Could we have more insulation requirements? Can we have south side of homes having deciduous trees? And so I can go on and on, but those are two big issues for me. The third one is dedicated park funding. And you've been reporting and you understand full well that we have had parks be the stepchild. $200 million backlog in the Jacobs study. We have tremendous demands because we have super users as residents in this community. We, most fit city, most dog friendly city, best city to mountain bike from, all the lists. But the mountain backdrop regional parks and open spaces are getting overwhelmed. And you can't find parking on a Sunday at Stratton, at Red Rock Canyon. So we are preparing for that future, as well as the new development and the old existing parks that are festering problems. And so it's parks' turn, or trails, open space, and parks' turn. We've done a good job in the city with getting our police and firefighters and public safety personnel well equipped and up to staffing levels. We've done a good job with roads and bridges and potholes. We've done a good job with stormwater, but not parks. When I left in 2006, the park budget was essentially $19 million, $2 million more than it was today. And that was in 2005 dollars. Went down to 6 million. Now it's back up to 17 million, but a long way to go. And I think it's the biggest economic development potential that we have in the city. People don't necessarily want to live here because we have a great airport right next door, or that we have good freight through our railroads or through our our shorelines and ports. But what we do have is an incredible mountain backdrop and incredible access. And we have to figure out how to connect it all. And so that's my passion. The fourth issue that I really wanted to address with you is our growth. And so we have we were facing a huge growth boom. We get best place to live, best, most desirable, all these, categories. Now we're the best place to work remotely from. So even during COVID, we're growing by leaps and bounds. And so we have a choice. We have all this urban level development that's happening in the county. They're predicting places like Falcon are going to be 50,000 people over the next couple of decades. The county does not extract nearly as much as the city. It's $30,000 more at least to build a single family home in the city. Why? Because we require that they have stormwater infrastructure, that they pay us for police and fire, that they build parks, or they donate land for parks, that you can go through the whole list. The county isn't paying attention. So do we as a city want to try to figure out what we can do to work with the county to have an expansive service territory, possibly with utilities? But my biggest worry is the Denver and Dawson aquifers. They're going to get sucked dry. 25 years from now, are we going to have Monument and Falcon saying, we've run out of water, what can you help us? We need to plan beforehand. And so I think we need to really look at the region and understand what we want to be. Parks is part of it, absolutely. But we need to look bigger than that. And so I want to be on this council the next 4 years because I feel like those are going to be the big issues that are going to come forward. And I'm hoping that I can weigh in and convince the rest of the council to do the right thing.
Richard,
that was a long answer, wasn't it? Sorry about that.
No, it's all right. Can you talk about issues within your district specifically you'd like to address?
Yeah, so and what I brought, there's a fifth issue, and it's mostly in my district, and that's affordable housing and homeless. Homeless is really concentrated in my district, but affordable housing is a big issue. It's a big issue all over the city. They're saying we're 14,000 units short, but my guess is it's more like 20 to 25,000, particularly for seniors, single moms, for people that work in the service industry, and especially now in COVID when that's being shut down. And so we really need to get our arms around it. We've done a pretty good job. The mayor's hoping to have 1,000 new affordable units built every year, and we've matched that in the last couple of years. It's great, but 1,000 a year with the population growth that we're going to have isn't going to make that dent that we need to. And so I think we need to do everything that we can to open up every door to allow the marketplace to build the affordable units that our city needs, including the city donating land and being part of land banking, because we do own a fair amount of land between the city and utilities. Land is the most expensive piece of new affordable housing. But to see what we can do in every way, incentives, utility breaks, ways that we can allow the marketplace to make it affordable for them to do what we need for the community. And then if we can't get there with that free market, opportunity that's out there, then we really need to get prescriptive like other cities have. Inclusionary zoning, possibly rent control, rent stabilization, but that's a discussion down the road. It's not an easy one to sell people in Colorado Springs where they don't want government to be too directive. And then the homeless situation was another one. And so concentrated in my district, we did a good job. And from 2019 to 2020, we reduced our homeless by 20%. We reduced the people that are sleeping out unsheltered by 25%. We, this council and mayor and people that in the nonprofit community put together another extra 200 low barrier shelter beds, up to 720. Nobody needs to be out in the cold in the winter and lose a limb or freeze to death. But the low barrier shelter beds is just a temporary solution. And we've done all kinds of other things, homeless court. We have all these other programs in place. And by the way, I helped lead that. I was the council lead on all those homeless initiatives that we have, and I could go through a long list. And some of them have been successful, some of them not. But what we really need is permanent supportive housing. That housing first model is what's really been successful around the country. So I went down to Austin and looked at the community first village and was very proactive before COVID with an investor that wanted to come and help us build a 250 unit tiny home village. And that's a way to do that cheaper. I'm not saying that what we've done with Greenway Flats with the 65 units or 50 units at I keep calling it Liberty Heights, but it's I'm not remembering the name right now. But for veterans, it's good, but it's not what we need. We need 500, 600, 1,000 for the chronically homeless. Once they're in a place, you can stabilize them. They can get the drug treatment. They can get the mental health treatment, and that's for the chronically homeless. The people that are the hipster homeless, the people that are the hustlers, the people that are out there by choice and don't want to help themselves, I think we need to figure out how to not make them feel so welcome. And I like what they've done in Fort Worth, where they have a card and they go and they get services, but we know who they are, and they're not taking advantage. But if they're willing to get some help, get some job training or whatever it is that they need, let's help them. If they're not, then I think that they need to figure out that they're not welcome here. And so those are the issues I really would like to address. I think we've done a good job on lots of other homeless and affordable housing initiatives. But again, I can go into too long of a tirade about it.
So you're a small business owner, which gives you some perspective that maybe other candidates don't have on this. What more can be done to help small businesses during the coronavirus pandemic, specifically, locally?
Well, there's been a great effort both through the county and CARES money and places like the Downtown Partnership. They've been giving significant grants. Old Colorado City doesn't have that advantage, and so I wish that they had a downtown partnership like we do downtown. Certainly, there's been big efforts to help with not only with grants but loans, PPP loans, but I keep asking if we can be more forgiving of what the city requires. So, for example, there is that sales tax rebate for restaurants, which, by the way, I recused myself and we didn't take advantage of, but I was really pleased about that. But I think there's more of that we could do and really look at small businesses that are struggling and their utilities and how we can forgive, and not just say, well, we're not going to shut off your utilities, but we're going to forgive it for the time being until you're up in business, because it's really to our advantage as a utility to have them as a good customer down the road. And so I feel like we need to really continue that. I'm mixed on some of these people that are passionate about let's just open up the floodgates and let everybody into restaurants, and we don't need to worry about people getting sick. We closed ours down because we didn't feel like we could keep people safe, our employees and our customers, and I think we need to be diligent about that. But having said that, I think we can also figure out ways to be creative. So I initiate a program for restaurants to be able to become commissary kitchens for nonprofits right at the beginning of the pandemic. And United Way and everybody went with it. El Pomar gave a lot of money to help make that happen. But we need to be creative because we're lucky. Patricia and I, we own our building. We bought it off fortuitously in February, but many other restaurant and small business owners are just on the edge. And everything that we can do to give them a break, I think, is going to be critical at this point. And then once they're up and running, we need to really make sure that they have the ability to be successful too. So, there's the pandemic, but people don't realize that, there's months and months of debt that they're incurring and other issues. So just because they open their doors doesn't mean they're going to be instantly successful. So I think we need to be in for the long run.
What can be done to make both city council and city government more inclusive and diverse?
Yeah, the key issue is council pay. And I've been an advocate for that for a long time. In fact, I initiated a $18,000 a year for the mayor and $12,000 for city council back in 2003. The voters didn't pass it. But I think they might be ready to now. And to me, that's critical because otherwise it's going to be mostly retired people, mostly retired military. It isn't going to be homogeneous. It's not going to represent the community. And so council pay is critical. I don't know that it should be $125,000 a year, which is what the county commissioners get, although we work harder than they do. And but I also, because I think that might become enough of a job that people might do more than they would normally do to be able to win a re-election. But having said that, it should be enough for people to live on. My wife is just, I'm so lucky to have her because she'll jump in and take over the business and I can get swept away at council, and we spend a lot hiring, general managers and people to replace me. I used to be a general manager of the restaurants and I'm not anymore. And so, we're lucky, but it's not easy for other people to do. And then I think we really need to get out there in a way that people understand that their vote is really important in local elections, not just state and national ones. We're lucky to have a 25 or 30% voter turnout. There was an election in 2005 that had 17% voter turnout. So you got 8% of the people voting, making all the decisions, and tends to be older, tends to be more conservative and Republican. And can we get people that are younger and more passionate about certain issues like climate change or law enforcement reforms, get involved in local elections? That's my hope.
So that was council. Anything about city jobs in general to help diversify city employment?
Yeah, exactly. And so, the mayor hired a diversity and inclusion director that answers directly to him. And I think that's going to be her task. It's ironic, when I was on council before, we had one point a black mayor and then vice mayor. We had a black city clerk. We had a black head of public works. We had a Hispanic police chief, Hispanic fire chief. I can go down the whole list, and a lot more diversity in every department. And that changed over the last couple decades. We need to go back to that. And then, but the other one that I always liked that we did back then that we don't do now is that the city does a lot of contracting, but we used to reach out to minority and women-owned businesses and train them on our request for proposals to be able to understand how to apply for the city contracts. Then we would give them priority over another contract that was the same from somebody outside. And then we would go next down the list to give it to a priority to somebody that was a locally owned business. We should do that again. There's a tremendous amount that we contract out. We could help minority and women-owned businesses are the two that I think are important categories tremendously just by what we do in terms of public works and all the other contracting through utilities that we have out there.
What's your position on recreational marijuana in the city?
Well, I, obviously, because you've written stories about it, and I probably had 4 editorials against me from the Gazette, from your competitor. I support it because it's here. It's not like we don't have recreational marijuana here. I could have a half an ounce in my pocket right now. You can't arrest me, or nobody can create a citizen's arrest from the Indy board. But having said that, it's here. And what we do is we go to Manitou and buy it, or we go down to the Pinion truck stop across the El Paso County border and buy it, or we buy it from the black market, or we become medical users. That's why we have the highest percentage of medical users of any city in the state, probably any city in the country. because people are getting their rec marijuana through the medical system. I'm not saying, that medical system doesn't need to exist, but having said that, it's here. We have no control over it, and we're losing a tremendous amount of revenue, which we can really use. We're talking about affordable housing and the homeless, and tree planting. We have no funding for any of that. Fire mitigation. Why would we want to give up $8, $10, $12 million a year? And then I think we can control it. That's the other part that I like is I'm not happy about the notion of becoming a Denver where there's 250 shops and they're on every corner, sometimes 3 to a block next to the nursery and the mall. To me, it's not a great image to have so much of it that you are, being labeled as the city that, is just selling drugs and nothing else, or, recreational marijuana. But we can control it in a way that doesn't increase much of the footprint. I like the medical industry that we've been great partners with. We track them seed to sale. We make sure everything is healthy and well monitored. And I would like to see them, mostly small business owners that are local, have an opportunity to sell rec marijuana as well. And that would be my hope, but maybe not allow for 250 or such a large number of stores that it becomes an issue that people don't like as our image. So I propose, with Joe Gabler, to put it on the ballot. Let's let the voters decide if they want it, yes or no, and then have council shape it in a way that's safe and regulated. And we couldn't get the majority of council to go there. We were going to, the mayor would have vetoed it as well. So.
What do you say to those who say it's not a good idea because we're already looking like we're losing Space Force and this would be the final nail?
Well, it's not going to happen between now and when that decision gets made again. I don't think it's going to be a year or two before they decide to change their mind on that decision. I think it's going to happen quickly. But, I guess you could say that was a concern. But if you look at what the Defense Department has invested in other states, the state they invest the most in is California. I think Massachusetts, Oregon, and Washington are right up there. There are 17 states around the country, including now Montana and South Dakota, that have legalized rec. 44 that have it legal in one fashion or another. I can't imagine that the Department of Defense is making their decisions based on that. There's just really no evidence. It wasn't on the forums. And so I think people want to use that as an excuse. But if I learned that this was a critical factor, then I would wait and try and make that decision after Space Command was put in place.
Okay. City Council also serves on Colorado Springs Utilities Board. Can you talk about the challenges that you foresee for CSU going forward?
Well, CSU has really done a good job in lots of ways, that I was explaining earlier. But the challenges are going to be the senior water rights that we have on the Colorado River. Not that we can't count on them at this point, but 70% of our water comes from the Colorado River Basin. And if you think about the Colorado River geography, the states and the areas that it serves, it's the 5th largest economy in the world. And it's Phoenix and Las Vegas and California and the growing areas of California. It's a huge factor in terms of how people are going to have a water future and how we're going to feed our country and the 95 golf courses they have in Phoenix or whatever it is. But having said that, we need to be very vigilant about protecting those resources. And the Upper Compact is something that we've been involved with, but we also are being very proactive with the Lower Arkansas Valley for reuse water rights of the Arkansas River. And that's something that we need to get better at. I've been involved with it. In fact, I'm the one who, when I worked for the Trust for Public Land, set up the Lower Arkansas Valley Water Conservancy District. But a lot of division and anger over the years because we were involved in buy and dry projects down there. For example, Crowley County is a desert because we took all the water. Their major industry is a prison now. And we helped facilitate it with Aurora. It wasn't really water that we took, but how we negotiate with our neighbors and then how we reuse water is going to be very, very important. So, Yes, we have great primary source water. We just added another 58 million gallons a day, which nearly doubles our capacity that we use per day. But if we're 1 million people in the region, is that how long is that going to last? So that purple pipe system is going to be really important. On the electric side, I was talking about electrifying homes. So natural gas extraction is something that we need to wean ourselves from, because it's not so much, natural gas itself creates a lot of extra pollution, but how it's extracted and stored and shipped is always having lots of methane gas problems. And so if we really want to be good partners with everybody else in terms of reducing our carbon emissions, that's going to be a key one. But also, when we get the smart meters in everybody's home, and we've invested in that, we have a huge budget for it. And we have these solar panels on people's homes and these battery storage, grids that are distributed energy in neighborhoods, and we can control people's thermostats and be able to manage the demand that goes in and out of the houses. That's a very sophisticated system that we need to put in place. If you've been to places like Los Angeles, these electric electric monitoring systems are like air traffic control towers. I mean, they're watching clouds, they're watching wind, and so that's going to be a big factor on how we keep our energy prices low, and we have renewable energy, and then we can be much more proactive about demand side management and conservation. We have rebates that people can go knock on the door and take from us, but we need to go to their doors ourselves. And I like this PACE program that they've done up in Boulder, where you actually take money from the savings of the utility and use that money to retrofit houses, put in new furnaces and insulation and better windows. And the customer pays us back. We're a bank, but they pay us back with the savings that they get. And then, 5 years down the road, they have that savings. And that's going to be the key. And then the wastewater part, I can, go into a little detail about that. We really struggle because we have to receive everybody else's wastewater. The Fountain Creek is the receptacle. There's nothing else that goes into the Arkansas River and ends up at 180 different water treatment plants before it gets to the Gulf of Mexico. And we're the ones in charge of that monument, Fountain Creeks. But there's 10,000 septic systems out there in the county. There's players like Monument and other ones that don't do a good job with their wastewater, and they give it to us. And there's a big E. coli problem in Fountain Creek. If we ever want to make it into an amenity where people can get into it, like they do at the REI building in Denver with kayaks or fish or whatever, we have to really tackle that. And then the last one is, and this is a little bit related to utilities, but more to our whole region, is that we've designed the whole region for cars. We happen to be in a high area with a cap that often creates pollution, and we're heading into non-attainment for ozone, unlike we ever have before. And so I would love to see us be more prescriptive about idling, about monitoring tailpipes. We've outlawed the smokers. I can't remember what the name of it is, out of pickup trucks, but we really have to be proactive, because number one, we'll have penalties. And number two is that we have a high number of people with asthma here, especially children. And we just have to get our arms around it. As much as people want the freedom to drive everywhere, however they do, that we need to be able to be careful how we take care of our air here.
Okay.
Am I giving you too long answers? Maybe I should, you want me to cut them down? I'm sorry if I'm rambling.
This is going to be my last one, and then we'll see if anybody else on the Zoom call.
Okay.
But, just in general, why are you most qualified to take this seat?
Well, I guess I could say I have 11 years experience on council. I run a congressional office. I've also led the 3 TOPS campaigns. I led major land protection efforts around Red Rock Canyon, Stratton Open Space, Cheyenne Mountain State Park. I was on park board for a year. I was able to put together one of the the first U.S. Environmental Film Festivals, one here and one in Los Angeles. And so I think I bring and then that small business perspective, I think I really bring something unique to City Council. And we may have a 6-person turnover with 2 other council members of the 9 leaving 2 years from now. We may have a 3rd one leaving if he runs for mayor, which people are thinking Wayne Williams might. And then we're going to have a mayor that's only got 2 more years. So all that experience in institutional history is going to go away. I may be one of the ones left standing. And I can't tell you how many times I run council meetings where council members have good ideas, but I remember that we tried to tackle that back in 2003, and these were the problems and these were the issues. And I'm not saying it should be all people like me. We do need the new voices, but at least for this go around, I think you need to have some experience. And I want to finish some of these things up. This is going to be my last run. I'm 68. I'm not going to run for anything else. And I just want to make sure that some of the important issues to me are taken care of before I leave it to hopefully people more your age in the future if they can get paid.
I'm also 68. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, you're 68. You do really well. Yeah, I love your toupee.
That's all I had. Let's see if anybody else has any questions. We can start with Mary Jo. Did you have anything for Richard?
No, I don't. Thanks.
Okay. Alyssa?
Yeah, when I dropped off earlier, did we ask any questions about LETAC?
No.
No,
Nope.
you didn't. So you want me to talk about that, or do you have a specific question?
Oh, yeah, basically just like, do you think that LETAC, the form it ended up taking, is the most effective? And how do you think that council can help guide that commission to really make a difference?
Well, it's what we have. And I always tell people, let's give it a chance. I think we appointed people that really care about Black Lives Matter and use of force and de-escalation of the police and being able to have a more diverse police force, but particularly to be able to communicate with our minority communities so they feel like they can trust the police. And they're going to come up with all kinds of recommendations, and I can't say what they should be or what they will be. But what I'm really hoping is that they go through what we do as a police department with a fine-tooth comb and really understand where there are areas that we're successful, and where there are areas that we're not, and really look at the best practices of other police departments around the country. And I really helped drive it. I guess like you could say I was one of the main leaders. In fact, I was going to appoint my own presidential commission, but council and the mayor wanted to have it be a council appointed one. But I thought we didn't do a good job with the Devon Bailey shooting. Public relations wise, I didn't like the optics. In fact, I called, Phil Weiser and the governor and said, well, why don't you try and have the CBI do the investigation instead of the sheriff's department that we're so connected to? And I even called other DAs around the state to see if they would take it on. And but it just, the optics were what were really bad with that. And I wasn't a fan of the fleeing felon law. I was so happy that the legislature passed the Devon Bailey law and got rid of that. I just thought it really was a recipe for what happened. And the tensions are still there. They're just an incident away. We could have an incident tomorrow and all of a sudden, all this will come back up again. I didn't think we did a great job on how we handled the demonstrations, although in some cases we did, but I thought we could have been better with that too. And so I'm hoping that we can really start to look at all that and become the best police department in the country. I think we have that potential, but we certainly need to be a lot more diverse. We need to really understand the best practices out there. We need to be forthright with everything we do. Transparency is critical. And then we need to get involved with community policing again, which we did when I was on council before, but it got taken away during the recession. And I think that's going to be the key. But everybody seems earnest in wanting to make this work. And so I tell people, let's give it a chance. I know it wasn't everybody that you wanted on this commission, or maybe you didn't like an ex-police chief or whatever it was, but but give it a chance and then see if we need to do something different or better.
Amy, did
Thank
you have
you.
anything for Richard?
No, I didn't, but thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, no, happy to. And thanks for for doing this. It's so hard during a council race for people to get much information, but boy, the Indy is really the best. It's the source I use. In fact, I look at, at 10 o'clock at night before I go to bed, and I'm going to see what they are saying about who's running and why. And because there's 21 people running and you don't know who the next council might be. So I really appreciate the depth that you do. And
We're going to need you to put that in writing with.
yeah, and so and use it as a commercial. If you want, I can.
And we have Helen too. I don't want to miss Helen. Helen, anything for Richard?
Yeah, Richard, you've been talking about environmental concerns and being more prescriptive on vehicle use and helping people out of homelessness. It seems like public transportation is an integral part of some of those solutions. What do you see as the path forward to a public transportation system here that's truly usable and affordable?
Yeah, the problem that we have in every city in the West has is that we just don't have the population concentrations to drive a fixed route major bus system, like they do in cities like Denver does, and certainly, cities back east do. And then we don't have the passenger rail that other cities have. And so we struggle to provide a fixed route system that has riders of choice. They call it rider dependent system. So it's just people that can't afford a car and that have no other choice, or they have disabilities, whatever it is. But these big buses are riding around, half, 2/3 empty. And so does it make sense for us to keep investing in that system that, by the way, is heavily subsidized? It's not like it pays for itself. For the people that are rider dependent. And I like what they've done in Portland and other cities around the country, where they've put together a transportation system built on jitneys. And what it is that they're just passenger vans. And in some cases, they work with Uber and Lyft, where they contract out to them, but they take people door to door. And that's where it's going to be successful here. Unfortunately, past councils, and maybe I was part of the problem, we didn't build the city for pedestrians either. So yeah, it would be great to take a bus to Powers and Constitution, but what do you do when you get out of it? You take your life in your hands. You got eight lanes and parking lots, and so you got to figure out how to get people door to door in a way that's inexpensive enough to drive that. But the other part that I've really been working on for a long time, and we're finally getting there. I think we may be able to get that railroad switching yard out of downtown. And certainly with Drake retired, there's no big coal customer there. If we could ever move the freight to the outside of town, which is, by the way, where the warehouses are, all those warehouses in Southwest downtown aren't active anymore. We don't need major freight there. Then we could have front range passenger rail. And I think that's going to be a big gain for this whole community. A lot of people like to go to Denver, Boulder, places up north, but they don't want to fight the traffic. And certainly people want to work there too. That's why Mustang has been, popular. I think we can do a really good job of downtown circulators that go all the way out to UCCS and go over to Manitou through especially the no man's land that we're going to turn into a whole pedestrian district and urban renewal up by the dog track. And, we can really expand downtown and make everything much better for public transportation there. I just don't see people taking the bus from the Banning Lewis Ranch to downtown, and that's going to be the new form of transportation. And we just have to figure out how to, number one, be more efficient with cars. So I think the driverless cars are going to help. I think the fact that we're moving into an internet economy is going to help. So people aren't driving to get their groceries as much. They'll have them delivered in hopefully more efficient ways. And there's all kinds of things that we can do, but I wish there was an easy solution. Let's just have more buses and more bus routes. But maybe we'll get to such a point where the traffic is so bad that people will use buses. And we can provide separate bus lanes, they call it guided bus lanes, to get people places quicker. And then maybe public transportation could work. I don't think people will do it by choice if they can get somewhere quicker in their own car.
Thanks.
All right. Anything else, Helen?
That's it. Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah.
Richard, any parting thoughts?
I'm sorry I ramble on so long, and I know I do too much, and so I'm just I always joke and say I have my master's degree in city council and I'm working on my PhD. So I apologize for long answers, but I really appreciate your willingness to ask these good questions. And I think local government is going to be the way that democracy is going to work again. And I agree with Barack Obama in his 60 Minutes interview. And so that my parting thought is it really does work as a local government. I'm philosophically different than Wayne Williams and John Suthers. And, obviously if we start talking about certain issues, but we work together. We may disagree, but we also forgive each other quickly and we move on to the next. And I just hope that more people get involved in local government, because it's not that partisan world where people have to choose sides.
Okay.
That's my speech.
Well, thanks.
And all 5 of you have to vote for me, because if I lose by 5 votes, you're going to feel really guilty.
That would be that, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
We'll be coming out with our endorsements mid-March, either the 10th or the 17th, so around the time the ballots come out. So be on the lookout for the Indy then, and we appreciate your time.
No, thanks so much for taking all this time with me. We really appreciate it.
Best of luck.
Okay, you too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.